Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something that, well, it feels like it's moving faster than most of us can really keep up with, the world of AI. Specifically, we want to do a deep dive into where it stands today. Its applications, how it's scaling, and then look at what the road ahead might look like tomorrow.
Yeah, and that feeling of speed, it's palpable. It really comes through in the sources we've gathered for this. We've got a whole collection of recent reports, some really eye-opening data points, commentary from industry folks, observations on how people are actually using this stuff, and importantly, a look at the sheer scale of the infrastructure being built.
Right. So our mission here, for you listening, is to try and cut through some of that noise, pull out the most important facts, the key trends. We want to unpack what's really happening with AI right now, get a sense of its applications, understand this, frankly, dizzying pace of scaling, and look at where it seems to be heading.
It's definitely one of those topics where fast-moving just feels like a massive understatement. I mean, these sources really suggest the pace of change we're seeing now is, well, among the fastest periods of technology compounding humanity's ever really experienced.
Okay, let's anchor that speed then. What are people calling AI's iPhone moment? When did this massive acceleration really hit the sort of broader public consciousness?
Well, that moment is pretty much pinned to the public launch of generative AI, specifically ChatGPT back in November 2022. Suddenly, AI wasn't just this abstract thing or, tech working behind the scenes. It became a tool that anyone could use directly to create things, text, images, audio, even code.
And the reaction from users was just immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge, right? Unlike anything before.
Oh, totally unprecedented. ChatGPT saw the fastest user ramp up for standalone product ever.
Yeah.
Think about it. 1 million users in just 5 days. And to give that some scale, the sources point out ChatGPT hit 355 billion annual searches in only 2 years by 2024. Google. It took them 11 years to reach that same volume back in 2009. That comparison alone, it tells you something pretty dramatic about the acceleration.
Wow, okay. 11 years versus 2. Yeah, that's staggering. And it wasn't just people signing up initially, right? They're actually spending more time with it.
Exactly. The data shows engagement is getting deeper. Daily time spent on the ChatGPT app just in the USA jumped by, get this, 202% over about 21 months. That's from July 2023 to April 2025. So, yeah, people are really integrating it.
Okay, so massive adoption in these direct consumer tools. How else is AI starting to impact, say, the creation and distribution of content, knowledge, that kind of thing?
Well, we're definitely seeing its fingerprints in places like academic research. For example, one analysis found that about 1% of scientific papers published in 2023 showed some kind of generative AI involvement. Top journals are already scrambling to issue guidance on how researchers need to disclose using these tools.
And news and media, too, I imagine. That seems like a prime area.
Oh, heavily. By mid-2024, sources estimated something like 6.96% of global news articles daily were AI generated. And if you look back just a bit, May 2023, there were already over 1,200 news and info websites identified that were relying mostly on AI content, often with minimal human checking. Even the big players like the Associated Press, they were automating around 40,000 stories by mid-2023. That was about 5.5% of their total output. So yeah, it's not niche, it's hitting the mainstream information flow.
That covers the digital side quite starkly. But AI isn't just staying on our screens, is it? We're seeing it pop up in the physical world, too.
Exactly right. Take autonomous taxis, for instance. According to data from April 2025, they're rapidly grabbing market share in big cities like San Francisco. That's AI making real-time decisions, operating directly in our messy physical world, moving people around.
So beyond these specific examples, how are the sources talking about AI's impact on something more fundamental, like work itself, across the different sectors?
Yeah, it's evolving incredibly fast there. We're seeing what they call cognitive automation AI systems that can reason, create, solve problems, really taking off alongside the physical automation we already know, like robots and drones. But what's truly astonishing, based on these sources, is the speed of improvement in that cognitive ability. In just the roughly 3 years since ChatGPT went public, the sources suggest AI has leapt from maybe a high school student level of reasoning to something getting pretty close to near human level reasoning.
Near human level reasoning in 3 years. That's almost hard to grasp. That kind of acceleration is mind-bending. How's that actually showing up in, say, the business world, in enterprise?
Well, companies are definitely seeing real results already. There's an example, Glean. They do enterprise search and AI agent stuff. Their annualized revenue apparently grew 10 times, hitting $100 million in just 2 years. That points to this shift towards, like horizontal platforms. The value isn't just in selling software licenses anymore. It's shifting towards charging for the embedded intelligence, the AI-driven outcomes across different business functions.
Ah, okay. So it's less about buying a specific tool and more like buying a smart capability that plugs into your workflow.
Precisely, yeah. Think about AI agents that can automatically summarize, I don't know, all your internal meeting notes or handle complex customer support issues from start to finish. That intelligence is getting woven right into how businesses operate.
And it's not just the private sector feeling this. Government education, they must be grappling with this too.
Oh, absolutely. Adoption is becoming a much higher priority there as well. The sources mentioned things like OpenAI launching ChatGPT Gov specifically for government use. Yeah. And you see major universities partnering up. University of Michigan, Oxford, both announced collaborations with OpenAI in March 2025. Arizona State launched a whole AI acceleration organization back in August 2023. Institutions are actively trying to figure out how to use this and manage it.
It sounds like AI is also moving beyond just like answering simple questions to actually performing more complex, multi-step kinds of tasks.
Yeah, that's the shift towards what people are calling agentic AI.
Yeah.
It's moving into automating more specialized knowledge work. Google's Gemini, for instance, has this feature called Deep Research. Apparently, it can browse hundreds of websites, analyze what it finds, and then create these comprehensive reports. That's AI acting more like a research assistant,
Sure.
An agent taking on complex workflows, not just giving a quick answer.
Okay, that gives us a really good picture of the applications we're seeing. But none of this massive growth happens in a vacuum. What about the underlying physical demands, the engine room, as the sources called it? What's needed to power this kind of speed?
Right. And this ties straight back to that idea of accelerating technology compounding we mentioned earlier. This level of growth needs just immense infrastructure.
And running these really advanced AI models sounds incredibly expensive, computationally speaking.
You're absolutely right. It is. The compute costs just to train these huge AI models, they're really high and they keep going up. But, and this is key, the costs for inference, the cost per unit of actually using the trained model, like per word generated, those costs are falling quite significantly, actually.
Huh. So it's super expensive to build the brain, but it's getting cheaper each time you ask it to think, basically.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah. And this creates this really powerful flywheel effect. See, lower per unit inference costs make AI cheaper for everyone to use day to day. That naturally fuels way higher overall usage. But then that increased usage drives up the total demand for all the underlying infrastructure. The servers, the power, the chips, which pushes the overall costs and investment needed higher again. It just feeds itself.
And that massive demand translates into huge capital investment, right? We must be seeing billions flowing into this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tech companies are just pouring money into R&D. The big 6 U.S. tech firms, they're now spending something like 13% of their revenue on R&D. That's up from 9% just a decade ago. And their capital expenditures, CapEx across the big cloud providers, it's scaling dramatically just to build out all the hardware needed.
And data centers seem to be right at the heart of that physical build-out.
They really are the literal engine rooms for these AI models. The sources highlight some pretty stark numbers. USA data center private construction value is climbing significantly, up 28% per year. And the amount of space being absorbed, or currently under construction, up an incredible 49% per year. To put it another way, new data center construction increased 16 times compared to existing capacity, only growing 5 times over just 4 years, from 2020 to 2024.
Wow. And I think one source called them electricity guzzlers, which definitely gives you a sense of the energy footprint involved here.
Yeah, it really highlights a critical constraint, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And a major implication of scaling this fast. And of course, enabling all of this are the chips themselves.
Right. NVIDIA, that's the name everyone seems to know in this space.
And their numbers reflect that demand perfectly. The sources show just massive growth, like 78% year-over-year increase, leading to $39 billion in quarterly revenue.
Right.
And something like 28x growth over the last 10 years. It's huge. But it's not just NVIDIA. Other big players are developing their own custom chips, too. Google's had their TPUs, their tensor processing units, specifically for AI, since way back in 2015. Tesla's building out their Dojo supercomputer, aiming for better training efficiency.
The sheer scale and especially the speed of building all this capacity,
Yeah.
it's almost hard to wrap your head around.
It really is. I mean, look at the pace xAI set building their Colossus supercomputer. They apparently built the first phase in 122 days. Then they doubled its size to 200,000 GPUs in just another 92 days. This was as of November 2024. and they're planning for a million GPUs. They even state explicitly, progress in AI is fundamentally driven by the magnitude and the speed of deploying compute. It's literally a race measured in how many GPUs you can deploy and how fast.
It really does sound like an arms race, not just in the software models, but in the physical hardware that powers them.
Huh.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit now. Let's look at the global picture and maybe peek down the road ahead. How is all this rapid AI stuff impacting the world on a bigger scale?
Well, for starters, global internet penetration is now over 70%, which is great, though. Regions like South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa definitely still lag behind quite a bit. But what's interesting, the sources point out, is how new internet user growth is actually being enabled kind of alongside this AI.
How's that? You mean beyond just laying more traditional cables?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
New enablers are really emerging. Satellite internet, like SpaceX's Starlink, is playing a surprisingly big role now. Starlink apparently had over 5 million subscribers as of February 2025, and it was growing at this incredible 202% annual rate over the previous 3-ish years. Its coverage is expanding all over the globe, and it's basically unlocking internet access in places that were previously totally inaccessible or way underserved. And these places are coming online potentially directly into the AI era, which is different from previous tech waves.
And politically, geopolitically, AI is clearly seen as a massive factor now.
Oh, absolutely. The sources are pretty blunt about it. They describe AI as actively reshaping the world order. It's seen as this crucial lever of geopolitical influence. There's this palpable sense of an AI space race, particularly between the US and China, and that just ramped up the urgency everywhere else around things like national sovereignty, security, and just pure speed of development.
Is China making significant strides in that race? Are they catching up or keeping pace?
The sources definitely indicate they're accelerating fast. Chinese LLMs, their large language models, are achieving really competitive performance, and sometimes, apparently, with lower training costs compared to some Western models. Crucially, they're increasingly able to power these using their own local semiconductors. Huawei, for example, is reportedly delivering advanced AI chip clusters to Chinese companies that can't get the latest NVIDIA stuff because of U.S. restrictions. That was news as of April 2025. And you see user adoption, too. An app like DeepSeek, a Chinese mobile AI app, hit 54 million monthly active users in just 4 months, early 2025. And a big chunk of those users were in China, about 34%, and also Russia, around 9%.
Right, so it's not just about having the best algorithms, it's about having the independent capability to build the whole stack, the underlying hardware, and deploy it globally. Okay, so based on all these trends, what are some of the key predictions the sources are making for the near future? What's coming next?
Well, one of the areas expected to see huge impact is software development itself. The thinking is AI will dramatically lower the cost of actually creating software and massively boost developer productivity. Some sources throw around numbers like a potential 10x improvement. If that happens or even comes close, it makes every industry that uses software, which is, let's face it, pretty much all of them, fundamentally more productive. Though, it's probably worth noting, one source did pour a little cold water on the most extreme takes, suggesting that, 90% of developers writing 90% of code by the end of the year. Probably unlikely.
Yeah, maybe not that fast. But even a significant fraction of that 10x improvement would be a massive shift in how we build digital tools.
It really would.
Yeah.
And another major prediction is the shift towards more integration. And these AI agents we talked about, these are AI systems designed specifically to automate complex tasks that, right now, knowledge workers or developers do manually. Think about an AI managing your overflowing email inbox for you, or handling routine customer service chats from start to finish, or even dealing with project tasks, like taking a Jira ticket and actually creating the initial code pull request. But, this is a big but, this shift to agents will probably require users, all of us, to get a lot more comfortable sharing our private data, our sensitive information, with these AI systems so they have the context to act.
Ah, right. So the AI needs to know more about you and your work to actually do more for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's moving from just answering your questions to actively executing tasks on your behalf, working within your apps and workflows. There's even talk, maybe longer term, about the potential for creating custom software on the fly, just using natural language like, hey AI, build me a simple app that does X. Though the sources seem to think that's probably a bit further down the road.
Okay, what about something like language barriers? That feels like a really natural fit for AI's capabilities.
Yeah, that's seen as a huge potential game changer. AI could enable really high quality, near real-time translation of both speech and text. potentially just collapsing language barriers worldwide. There was a quote in the sources from the Spotify CEO basically asking, what could that do for global creativity, for knowledge sharing, for entertainment? He envisioned Spotify becoming a platform for literally all voices, thanks to AI translation.
And then, of course, there's the really big one, the potential for AGI, artificial general intelligence. What are the sources saying about the timeline or the feeling around that?
Yeah, the holy grail for some. Interestingly, expert expectations for AGI seem to have shifted forward recently, according to the sources. And AGI, just to be clear, means AI that can operate flexibly across totally different fields, solve problems it hasn't been specifically trained on.
Mhm.
If we ever actually achieve that, it would just fundamentally rewrite the rules of what software and hardware can do. These systems wouldn't just follow code. They'd understand high-level goals, they'd plan complex actions, execute them, learn, self-correct, potentially driving breakthroughs we can barely imagine right now in science, engineering, everything.
Okay, with all this incredible potential, this speed, there are also obviously massive risks we need to think about, right?
Absolutely. And the sources definitely acknowledge this. They don't shy away from it. They even included that really powerful quote from Stephen Hawking. He said, "Success in creating AI could be the biggest event in the history of our civilization, but it could also be the last unless we learn how to avoid the risks." All end quote. And the sources mention some specific potential risks, huge impacts on jobs and the very nature of work, the immense challenge of ensuring safety, especially in critical applications like self-driving cars or medical systems, and also creating significant new cybersecurity threats.
It's a really critical point. This isn't just a story about progress. It's about navigating what could be a pretty dangerous transition. And, looking back at history, we've seen other periods of incredibly rapid, disruptive technological change.
We certainly have. Yeah, the sources draw some parallels there. They compare the current AI boom to things like the railway boom completely replacing canals back in the 1840s.
Yeah.
Those periods also had this intense euphoria, massive amounts of capital flowing in, incredibly fierce competition, and eventually, a sorting out where there were clear winners and losers, and economies and societies were just fundamentally reshaped in the process.
Okay, so pulling all this together then, we've talked about this incredibly rapid pace of AI adoption and development, starting really with that iPhone moment of generative AI, marked by just unprecedented user growth, deep engagement across all sorts of sectors, research, news, even physical systems like autonomous cars.
Right, and we looked at the massive, almost mind-boggling infrastructure build-out needed to support it, that engine room, especially data centers and these super advanced chips from NVIDIA and others, all driven by that compute cost flywheel effect.
Then we zoomed out to the global picture, seeing how new things like satellite internet are expanding access right into this AI era, and how AI itself has become this key piece in a global geopolitical, well, space race, with nations like China rapidly building their own capabilities and domestic infrastructure.
And finally, we explored some of the potential impacts just down the road, from maybe fundamentally changing how we all work and how software gets built, to potentially tearing down language barriers globally, and even shifting the goalposts for artificial general intelligence. All while, crucially, acknowledging the very real, maybe even existential risks involved.
It really does come across strongly from the sources that this feels like a transformation unlike almost anything we've experienced before, maybe unfolding even faster than the internet did in its early days.
Yeah, it certainly feels like a truly pivotal moment. Hard to argue otherwise.
So thinking about everything we've just discussed, the incredible speed, the colossal investments, the intense global competition, and those very significant risks alongside the undeniable opportunities. What aspect of this road ahead for AI feels most significant or maybe most uncertain to you right now? And maybe more practically, how do you think your own daily interaction with AI might change maybe just in the next year or two based on the trends we're seeing? Something to think about.